Hey guys, this is Mrs. Wyatt coming to you with the 10.1 lesson overview. It's over cell growth, division, and reproduction. So what are some difficulties a cell faces as it increases in size? Well, the thing is that when a cell becomes larger, it puts more demands on the cell's DNA. It also makes it less efficient for it to move nutrients and waste across the cell membrane. Remember when we stood up in class, it was much easier for me to get my paper to the edge of the cell when it was smaller than it was when it was larger. So when we have a large cell, we have an overload of the DNA. So it's like a library that's used to having 100 people coming in, and then all of a sudden 1,000 people start coming in. Well, that library is not going to be able to handle that 1,000 people. Just like a large cell is not going to be able to handle its DNA needs. So what do we need to exchange through a cell membrane? Food, oxygen, and water enter through the cell membrane and waste products leave. The rate of exchange depends on the surface area of the cell in relation to the volume of the cell. It's much easier for me to get our things out when the surface area to volume ratio is much larger. So the surface area to volume is key to understanding why cells must grow as they divide as they grow. So let's take a look at these cubes at the bottom of the slide. So a 1 by 1 by 1 cube has a 6-to-1 surface area to volume, which is much more conducive to transport in and out of the cell. If you look at the 2 by 2 by 2, the surface area to volume ratio is half of what it was before. It's a 3-to-1 ratio. And if we triple the size and go to a 3 by 3 by 3, we are down to a 2-to-1, which makes it much less conducive to transport in and out of the cell. So before a cell grows too large, it'll divide through a process known as cell division. Before cell division, you have to copy your DNA, and then it divides into 2 daughter cells. Each daughter cell receives a complete set of DNA. The cell division reduces the volume, and therefore there's an increased ratio of surface area to volume, which makes it much easier for transport to happen, and it makes it much easier for the DNA to handle the demands in the cell. So there are 2 major types of reproduction. There's sexual and asexual reproduction. When you produce offspring from a single parent, it is known as asexual reproduction. The offspring are genetically identical to the parent. Offspring produced by sexual reproduction get some genetic material from each parent, which produces more genetically diverse offspring. So multicellular organisms, cell division leads to growth and enables repair and maintenance of the body. In single-celled organisms, cell division is actually a form of reproduction, a form of asexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction produces offspring that are genetically identical to the single parent. Asexual reproduction is a simple, efficient way for organisms to produce a large number of offspring. Both prokaryotic and eukaryotic single-celled organisms and many multicellular organisms can reproduce asexually. So bacteria reproduce through binary fission, Kalanchoe form plantlets, and hydras reproduce by budding. In sexual reproduction, you have offspring from 2 parents that fuse 2 sex cells together to form 1 single-celled offspring that can grow and differentiate. Some of the genetic information comes from each parent, and most animals and plants and many single-celled organisms reproduce sexually. So this is a very important chart. I would make sure that you have this in your notes. Asexual reproduction produces genetically identical offspring, and it's quick and produces a large number of offspring. Sexual reproduction produces genetically diverse offspring, and genetic diversity helps them survive when environments change. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in class.